Admiral Zextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing screen. The Dominion's Fist was the largest ship in the Korthak fleet, a massive vessel that could destroy entire planets. For 3 centuries, Admiral Zextar had served the Korthak Empire, crushing any species that dared to resist their rule. The galaxy knew the Korthak name and feared it. From the crystal worlds of Andromeda to the gas giants of the Outer Rim, every civilization bowed before their power. The Empire controlled half the known galaxy, and Admiral Zextar had personally conquered 12 star systems. Today felt different, though. His communications officer, Lieutenant Colvin, had discovered something strange during their routine patrol of the outer territories. The young officer approached the Admiral's command chair, his 3 eyes blinking nervously. "Admiral, we have intercepted unusual transmissions from an unknown system," Colvin reported. "The signals are coming from the 3rd planet of a small yellow star." Zextar turned his attention to the datapad Colvin handed him. The transmissions were weak but clear enough to analyze. The language was primitive, full of simple sounds and basic concepts. The species called themselves humans, and their planet, Earth. "How primitive are they?" Zextar asked, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had seen 1,000 worlds fall. "Very primitive, sir. They have only recently achieved spaceflight. Their fastest ships barely reach their own moon. They use chemical rockets and metal projectiles for weapons. Their technology is at least 500 years behind our weakest colony worlds." Zextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Another backward species playing with fire and metal. What makes them worth our attention?" Colvin hesitated before answering. "Sir, that is what puzzles me. I checked our military database for any previous contact with this system. The results are strange." The Admiral's expression changed. In 3 centuries of conquest, he had learned that strange usually meant dangerous. "Explain." "According to our records, no Korthak force has ever attempted to invade this Earth. But sir, that is not the strange part. I expanded the search to include all galactic civilizations in our database." Colvin paused, his nervousness increasing. "Admiral, over 40 different species have had contact with this system. All of them possess technology superior to these humans. All of them have the military power to conquer primitive worlds, but none of them list Earth as a conquered territory." Zextar stood up from his command chair. This was indeed strange. The galaxy was full of weak species that stronger civilizations used for resources or labor. A primitive world like Earth should have been conquered dozens of times over. "Perhaps it is a quarantine world," suggested Commander Velthos from her position at the tactical station. "Some species create biological weapons that make planets too dangerous to occupy. Or maybe the planet has no valuable resources," added the ship's science officer. "Why waste time conquering a worthless rock?" Zextar considered these possibilities, but something felt wrong. He had seen quarantine worlds before, and they were clearly marked in galactic databases. Earth had no such warnings. As for resources, the intercepted transmissions showed humans fighting constant wars over oil, metals, and land. Clearly, the planet had things worth taking. "Set course for this Earth," Zextar commanded. "We will investigate personally." As the Dominion's Fist entered hyperspace, Zextar continued studying the human transmissions. The more he learned, the more these creatures puzzled him. They were divided into hundreds of separate nations, constantly fighting each other over resources and ideas. They poisoned their own air and water while strip mining their planet. They created weapons capable of destroying their own civilization and pointed them at each other. "They are like children playing with plasma cannons," Velthos observed as she reviewed the data. "How has such a chaotic species even survived?" The ship's AI translated more human communications. Television shows, radio broadcasts, and digital messages flooded their systems. The humans seemed obsessed with violence, creating elaborate fictional stories about war, invasion, and conquest. They had thousands of movies about alien invasions, where primitive humans somehow defeated advanced alien civilizations. "Look at this," Colvin said, displaying a human movie on the main screen. "They imagine us coming to their world, and they always win in the end. They actually think their primitive weapons could defeat us. The Korthak officers laughed as they watched humans in the movie use nuclear weapons against alien invaders. The special effects were crude, but the humans in the story never gave up fighting, even when their cities burned around them. Entertaining. Fiction, Zextar said. But fiction nonetheless. We have shields that can stop 1,000 nuclear weapons. We have weapons that can crack planets. What could these primitives possibly do to threaten us? 3 days later, the Korthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Long-range sensors immediately began scanning the third planet. The readings confirmed everything they had learned from the transmissions. Earth was populated by roughly 8 billion humans who had barely begun to explore space. Their most advanced weapons are crude fusion bombs, the science officer reported. Their military vessels cannot even leave their planet's atmosphere. They have a few small space stations, but nothing that could threaten our shields. Zextar studied the tactical display showing Earth's defenses. A few dozen satellites, some primitive missile systems, and several hundred aircraft that looked like metal toys compared to Korthak fighters. It would be the easiest conquest of his career. Prepare the intimidation protocol, he ordered. Decloak one dreadnought in their orbit. We will demand their surrender and they will submit like all the others. But as the Void Crusher moved toward Earth, Admiral Zextar could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. Why had no one conquered this world before? The question nagged at him as his ship approached the small blue planet that would soon bow before Korthak might. He had no way of knowing that he was about to learn the answer to that question in the most terrifying way possible. The massive Korthak dreadnought Void Crusher dropped out of stealth mode directly above Earth's largest population centers. The ship was 3 kilometers long, its dark metal hull bristling with weapons that could level mountains. Admiral Zextar stood on the bridge watching the primitive blue planet spin slowly beneath them. All weapon systems online, reported Commander Velthos. We are in optimal position for intimidation display. Zextar nodded. This was standard procedure for primitive species. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, and watch them submit without firing a shot. It had worked on hundreds of worlds before. Open communications to all human frequencies, he ordered. Let us end this quickly. The message broadcast across every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth. Zextar's translated words reached every human simultaneously. Primitive humans of Earth, you are now subjects of the Korthak Empire. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift. Resist and your entire species will suffer before extinction. On Earth, the response was immediate, but not what the Korthak expected. In the Pentagon, General Jake Peterson was already moving before the alien message finished playing. He had been preparing for this moment his entire military career, though he never truly believed it would come. Get me President Martinez on secure line now, he barked to his aide. Activate DEFCON 1. This is not a drill. President Lisa Martinez was in the Oval Office when the alien ship appeared. Her first call was not to surrender negotiations, but to Defense Secretary Tony Richards. Tony, tell me we have options. We have options, Madam President, Richards replied grimly. They might not be good options, but we have them. Across the globe, military commanders received the same orders. In Russia, Admiral Boris Petrov ordered his nuclear submarines to battle stations. In China, General Liu Wei activated their orbital defense platforms. In Britain, Air Marshal James Wilson scrambled every available fighter jet. The humans were not panicking. They were mobilizing. Admiral Zextar watched Earth's response with growing confusion. Instead of surrender broadcasts, his communications officer intercepted military frequencies buzzing with activity. Instead of cowering populations, thermal imaging showed humans moving with purpose and organization. Sir, we are detecting unusual activity from their military installations, Lieutenant Colvin reported. Multiple missile sites are powering up. Their primitive aircraft are taking off from bases worldwide. Zextar laughed. Let them waste their fuel. Their weapons cannot even scratch our shields. Prepare for demonstration attack. Target that uninhabited island chain in the Pacific Ocean. One plasma burst should show them our power. The Void Crusher's main cannon charged with deadly energy. A brilliant beam of superheated plasma lanced down from orbit, instantly vaporizing a small uninhabited island. The explosion was visible from space, a mushroom cloud rising into the atmosphere. Zextar expected immediate surrender. Instead, something else happened. Every nuclear submarine in the world's oceans launched their missiles simultaneously. Every strategic bomber took to the skies carrying their deadliest weapons. Space-based platforms that most humans didn't even know existed suddenly came online and began targeting the alien ship. Captain Roy Barnes commanded the USS Nevada, one of America's most advanced nuclear submarines. As his missiles launched toward the alien vessel, he transmitted on an open frequency that the Korthak intercepted. "You picked the wrong species to threaten. We've been practicing for this our whole lives." The nuclear warheads reached the Void Crusher and detonated against its shields in brilliant flashes of light. As expected, they caused no damage to the advanced alien vessel. But the human response to their own failed attack shocked the Korthak crew. Instead of despair at their weapon's failure, human communications increased in intensity. Military leaders coordinated new strategies. Scientists began analyzing the alien ship's shield frequencies. Engineers started modifying weapons in real time. "Sir, this is highly unusual," Commander Velthos reported. "Most species surrender immediately after seeing their best weapons fail. These humans seem to be adapting." Admiral Zextar studied the tactical display showing Earth's continuing response. Human military forces were not retreating. Instead, they were regrouping and preparing for prolonged conflict. Even more disturbing, civilian populations were not fleeing in panic. They were organizing. Dr. Amanda Foster, director of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program, managed to hack into one of the alien communication frequencies. Her message to the Korthak fleet was broadcast in broken but understandable Korthak language. "You don't understand what you've done. We've been imagining this scenario for centuries. Every movie, every book, every video game has been preparing us for you." The Korthak officers exchanged worried glances. How did a primitive human learn their language so quickly? How were they adapting their military strategies in real time? Most disturbing of all, why did they seem excited rather than terrified? More, human transmissions reached the Void Crusher. A Marine colonel named Beth Harrison was organizing civilian resistance cells in major cities. A scientist named Dr. Kevin Liu was working with international teams to develop countermeasures, using physics principles the aliens thought were beyond human understanding. But it was the tone of human communications that truly unsettled the Korthak crew. Phrases like, "Bring it on," and "We've been waiting for this," flooded their translation systems. The humans weren't just refusing to surrender, they were looking forward to the fight. Commander Chris Murphy led a squadron of experimental fighters that had been jury-rigged with technology reverse-engineered from the alien demonstration blast. Within hours of the attack, human engineers had analyzed the plasma residue and begun developing counters. "Sir," Colvin reported nervously, "we're intercepting human military communications that suggest they're not afraid of us. In fact, many of them seem angry." Admiral Zextar read the intercepted messages with growing unease. Humans were using phrases their computers couldn't properly translate. Concepts like spite, stubbornness, and proportional response is for the weak. One message from a human general particularly disturbed him. "They want to play rough? Fine. We wrote the book on rough. Time to show these aliens why Earth is still independent." As reports continued flowing in from around the planet, Admiral Zextar realized he was facing something unprecedented in his 3 centuries of conquest. The humans had not only refused to surrender after seeing their weapons fail, they had immediately begun preparing for extended warfare. Even worse, they seemed to be enjoying it. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zextar began to wonder if the Korthak Empire had made a terrible mistake. Within 6 hours of the alien threat, something happened on Earth that had never occurred in human history. Every war stopped, every conflict ended, every argument between nations was put aside. The entire planet focused on one single goal: fighting the alien invaders. In Washington, President Lisa Martinez sat in an emergency meeting with leaders from around the world. Russian President Dmitry Volkov appeared on the secure video link alongside Chinese Premier Wang Chen and British Prime Minister Catherine Wells. These same people had been arguing about trade disputes just yesterday. Now they spoke with one voice. "We are pooling all military resources," President Martinez announced. "Every weapon, every soldier, every piece of technology. This is not about countries anymore. This is about species survival." Admiral Zextar watched these developments from orbit with growing alarm. His intelligence officers reported impossible things happening across Earth's surface. Enemy nations were sharing their most secret weapons. Terrorist groups were offering their services to governments they had been fighting. Criminal organizations were turning over their resources to military commanders. "Sir, we are detecting massive industrial changes across their planet," Lieutenant Colvin reported. "Civilian factories are retooling to produce military equipment. They are converting car plants into weapon manufacturing facilities. Even toy companies are now making ammunition." Commander Velthos studied the tactical display with confusion. How are they coordinating so quickly? They have hundreds of different languages and governments. This level of organization should be impossible for such a divided species. The answer came from intercepted human communications. Dr. Amanda Foster, the human scientist who had somehow learned Korthak language, was broadcasting directly to the alien fleet. "You still don't understand, do you? We've been preparing for this our entire existence. Every human child grows up watching movies about alien invasions. Every military academy studies scenarios just like this one. We've been planning for you for generations." On Earth, the transformation continued at an incredible pace. Commander Chris Murphy's experimental fighter squadron had grown from 12 pilots to over 200 in just one day. Human engineers were working around the clock, using data from the alien demonstration blast to create new weapons. Dr. Kevin Liu led an international team of scientists in a laboratory that had been built in an abandoned subway tunnel in just 8 hours. Scientists from former enemy nations worked side by side, sharing research that had been classified top secret just days before. "The alien plasma beam operates on a frequency we can disrupt," Dr. Liu explained to the team. "We need to create resonance weapons that can overload their systems." Marine Colonel Beth Harrison had organized civilian resistance cells in every major city. But these were not ordinary resistance groups. They included former Special Forces soldiers, police officers, firefighters, engineers, and even video game players who understood tactical coordination. "Every human on this planet has seen alien invasion movies," Colonel Harrison told her team leaders. "We know what doesn't work, and we know what might work. Time to find out if Hollywood got anything right." The Korthak crew watched in amazement as human civilian populations began demonstrating capabilities their intelligence reports had never detected. Hidden military installations emerged from underground bunkers. Orbital platforms that appeared to be communication satellites suddenly revealed themselves as weapon systems. "Sir, we're detecting new energy signatures from their moon," the science officer reported. "They have military installations there as well. How did our scans miss these?" Admiral Zextar was beginning to understand. The humans had been hiding their true military capabilities. What they saw as primitive weapons were just the ones humans used against each other. The real weapons had been saved for external threats. Captain Roy Barnes of the USS Nevada received new orders that made him smile grimly. "All submarines are to surface and reconfigure for orbital bombardment," the message read. "We're taking this fight to space." Within hours, human submarines were launching modified missiles that could reach orbit. The modifications were crude, but effective, designed by engineers who had been given unlimited resources and told to think creatively. The most disturbing development for the Korthak came when they intercepted human entertainment broadcasts. Instead of being terrified, humans were creating jokes about the invasion. Comedy shows made fun of the aliens. Musicians wrote songs about fighting back. Children drew pictures of humans defeating the invaders. "They're not afraid," Commander Velthos whispered. "After everything we've shown them, they're not afraid." The truth was even worse than that. Intercepted military communications showed that many humans were excited. Phrases like, Finally, something worth fighting. And this is what we trained. 4 appeared constantly in their transmissions. Colonel Sam Rodriguez led a special operations team that had done the impossible. Using nothing but modified spacesuits and determination, they had somehow reached and boarded one of the smaller Cortec vessels. They didn't steal technology or sabotage systems. Instead, they left a simple message written in English on the ship's bridge. "We're giving you one chance to leave. Take it." Engineer Melissa Carter became famous among human resistance groups for her ability to reverse engineer alien technology. When asked by reporters how she learned Cortec engineering, so quickly she answered with typical human directness, "YouTube tutorials and spite, mostly spite." The breaking point came when Dr. Paul Wagner, a linguistics professor from a small college, managed to hack directly into the Cortec fleet's communication system. His message was broadcast in perfect Cortec language using their own protocols. "Attention, Cortec fleet," Dr. Wagner's voice said calmly. "We know where your home worlds are now. We know how your ships work. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years over scraps of land and drops of oil. Want to see what happens when we focus on you instead?" Admiral Zextar stared at the communication display in horror. How had a primitive human learned, not just their language but their most secure communication protocols? How were they reverse engineering Cortec technology in real time? Most terrifying of all, how were they adapting faster than his military computers could calculate responses? The humans weren't just fighting back. They were learning, adapting, and improving with every passing hour. They had turned their entire planet into a fortress, unified their species for the first time in history, and were treating the invasion like a puzzle to be solved rather than a disaster to be survived. For the first time in 3 centuries of conquest, Admiral Zextar began to consider the possibility that the Cortec Empire might have encountered something they could not defeat. Admiral Zextar could not sleep. For 2 days he had watched the impossible happen on the blue planet below. The humans were not surrendering. Instead, they were getting stronger. Their technology was advancing by the hour, and their coordination was perfect. Something was very wrong with this invasion. He called an emergency meeting with the High Council using the fleet's long-range communication system. The holographic images of the 5 council members appeared on his bridge, their expressions showing the usual confidence of beings who ruled half the galaxy. Admiral Zextar, Council Overseer Morthak, spoke first. "Your reports are concerning. You claim these primitive humans are resisting our advanced military force. This seems unlikely. Overseer, I need access to classified historical records," Zextar said directly. "Something about this planet is not in our standard database. I believe previous civilizations may have encountered these humans before." The council members exchanged glances. Council member Yorthak leaned forward. "Admiral, you are requesting access to the restricted archive. Those records are classified at the highest levels. Why do you believe this is necessary?" "Because these humans are not behaving like any species we have encountered," Zextar replied. "They show capabilities our intelligence never detected. They adapt faster than our computers can calculate. They seem to have been preparing for invasion for generations. I need to know if others have tried to conquer Earth before." A long silence followed. Finally, Overseer Morthak nodded slowly. "Very well. We are transmitting the classified files now. Admiral, what you are about to learn has been kept secret for good reason." The data transfer began, and Zextar's blood turned cold as he read the first entry. The file was titled, "Earth Sol System, Galactic Hazard Classification Extreme." The database contained over 200 separate entries. Every major galactic civilization had encountered Earth at some point in the past 1,000 years. The Zelani hegemony, the Vorthon Empire, the Crystalline Collective, the Nethys Conglomerate. All of them had tried to conquer the small blue planet. Every single attempt had ended in complete failure. Lieutenant Colvin read over the Admiral's shoulder, his 3 eyes widening in terror. "Sir, the first entry is from 400 Earth years ago. The Zelani sent their entire 3rd Fleet to subjugate the humans." "What happened to them?" Commander Velthos asked. Colvin's voice trembled as he read. "None of their ships ever returned. The last transmission from Fleet Commander Zelfar said, "The humans have turned our own weapons against us. They learn too fast. They never stop fighting. Send no more ships to this cursed world." Admiral Zextar scrolled through more entries. Each one told a similar story of confident military forces meeting impossible defeat at human hands. The Vorthon Empire had tried orbital bombardment, only to have their own ships somehow hijacked and used against them. The Crystalline Collective had attempted biological warfare, but the humans had not only survived the alien diseases, they had made them stronger and launched them back at their attackers. "Look at this entry from the Keth Dominion, Commander," Velthos whispered. "They tried to conquer Earth 200 years ago with cloaked ships and superior technology. The final report says, humans detected our stealth systems using primitive radio waves arranged in ways our science cannot understand. They captured 3 of our vessels using modified civilian aircraft. Recommend immediate retreat and permanent avoidance of Sol system." The most detailed entry came from the Nethys conglomerate, dated just 50 Earth years ago. Admiral Zextar read their final transmission with growing horror. "Day 12 of the invasion. The humans have adapted to every weapon we possess. They have reverse-engineered our technology and improved it. They are using their own atmospheric gases as weapons. How do you fight a species that treats vacuum as a minor inconvenience? They have modified their civilian spacecraft to ram our vessels. They show no fear of death, only anger at being attacked. Retreating immediately. Do not send reinforcements." Each entry contained warnings that became more desperate with time. "Do not engage humans in ground combat. Do not underestimate human adaptability. Do not threaten their offspring. Do not expect surrender under any circumstances." But it was the most recent entry that made Admiral Zextar's hands shake. Added just 30 years ago by the Drex Federation, it read, "Humans have achieved faster than light travel. They are no longer confined to their system. They have begun exploring nearby star systems. Recommend immediate notification of all galactic governments. Earth is no longer a local threat. It is a galactic concern." Council Overseer Morthak's voice interrupted Zextar's reading. "Admiral, now you understand why we never included Earth in our standard conquest databases. Every civilization that has encountered humans has reached the same conclusion. They cannot be conquered. They can only be avoided." "But why?" Admiral Zextar asked. "They are not the most advanced species. They do not have the strongest weapons. What makes them so dangerous?" Council member Vextar answered grimly. "According to the psychological profiles in those files, humans are what happens when evolution creates a persistence predator and gives it intelligence. They never stop hunting. They never give up. They adapt to any challenge and come back stronger. The Zenthari philosophers studied humans for decades," added Council member Korthak. "Their conclusion was that humans are universe's answer to the question, what happens when you combine creativity, stubbornness, and the ability to weaponize anything? The answer, apparently, is something that cannot be defeated through conventional warfare." Commander Velthos pointed to another entry in the database. "Sir, look at this note from the Academic Consortium. They tried to study human behavior by observing their entertainment media. The report says, humans spend their leisure time imagining increasingly creative ways to defeat superior enemies. Their fictional scenarios are more innovative than most species' actual military strategies. They appear to treat warfare as a form of entertainment and entertainment as training for warfare." Admiral Zextar closed the database files and looked out at Earth spinning peacefully below them. From orbit, it looked like any other inhabited world. But now he knew the truth. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. "Sir," Lieutenant Colvin said quietly, "what are your orders?" "Admiral," Zextar studied the tactical display showing his fleet's position. The mighty Korthak armada that could conquer star systems was facing something they had never encountered before. An enemy that got stronger the longer you fought them. An enemy that turned every attack into a learning opportunity. An enemy that had already defeated every other major galactic power. For the first time in his 3 centuries of military service, Admiral Zextar realized that the Korthak Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had not discovered a primitive world to conquer. They had awakened something that the galaxy had been trying very hard to leave alone. Admiral Zextar stared at the classified files for hours after the Council ended their transmission. The truth about Earth burned in his mind like acid. Every great civilization in the galaxy had tried to conquer these humans. Every single one had failed completely. Now the Korthak Empire was making the same mistake, but it was too late to simply withdraw without losing face. The Korthak military had never retreated from a primitive world. How could he explain to his superiors that humans with chemical rockets had defeated an empire that controlled half the galaxy? His answer came in the form of an impossible report from his reconnaissance team. "Sir," Lieutenant Colvin announced nervously, "we have a problem. A serious problem." Admiral Zextar turned from the viewing screen where he had been watching Earth's surface. "What now?" "Colonel Sam Rodriguez and his team have done something that should be impossible. They have infiltrated the cruiser Sharpblade using nothing but modified atmospheric suits and simple tools." Commander Velthos looked up from her station in shock. "That is impossible. The Sharpblade is a military vessel with advanced security systems. How could primitive humans board it?" Colvin's voice shook as he continued. "Sir, they did not steal anything. They did not sabotage any systems. They did not try to capture the ship. They left a message on the bridge written in basic English. 'We're giving you one chance to leave, take it.' The bridge fell silent. Every Korthak officer understood the implication. The humans had not boarded the ship to attack it. They had boarded it to prove they could. It was a demonstration of capability, not aggression. "How did they even reach the ship?" Admiral Zextar demanded. "Engineering analysis suggests they used modified civilian spacecraft and simple physics," the science officer reported. "They calculated approach vectors that avoided our sensors and used their planet's magnetic field to mask their energy signatures. Sir, they accomplished this with technology we classify as primitive." Admiral Zextar felt something he had not experienced in 3 centuries of military service: genuine fear. Not fear of death in battle, but fear of facing an enemy that could do impossible things with simple tools. The next report made things worse. Engineer Melissa Carter had somehow acquired pieces of Korthak technology from the demonstration blast and was already mass-producing improved versions. Human news broadcasts showed her explaining to reporters how she had reverse-engineered alien plasma weapons in just 2 days. "The trick is understanding that all energy follows the same basic rules," Carter told the human media. "Once you figure out their power source, the rest is just engineering. Also, YouTube has some surprisingly good physics tutorials." Dr. Paul Wagner made the situation even more terrifying. Not only had he learned the Korthak language and hacked their communication systems, but he was now broadcasting regular messages directly to the alien fleet. His latest transmission had chilled every Korthak officer to their core. "Greetings, Admiral Zextar." Dr. Wagner's voice came through their secure channels as if he owned them. "We know your name, your rank, and your military history. We know the names of your crew members. We know the location of your homeworlds. We have been studying your technology for 3 days now, and we understand how your ships work better than some of your own engineers." The human scientist paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "We have been fighting each other for thousands of years over tiny pieces of land, small amounts of resources, and abstract ideas. We have created weapons that can destroy our own planet, and we pointed them at each other over political disagreements. Now imagine what we will do to protect our world from actual invaders." Admiral Zextar tried to contact his superiors, but Dr. Wagner was not finished. "Admiral, you should read your own military history more carefully. Every species that has tried to conquer Earth learned the same lesson. We do not fight wars to win territory or resources. We fight wars to send messages. The message we are sending you is simple: leave now or discover why 200 other civilizations have the same warning about us in their databases." Commander Velthos checked her tactical systems and found something that made her gasp. "Sir, the humans have somehow mapped our entire fleet. They know the exact position, armament, and crew complement of every ship. How is this possible?" "Pater," answer came from their own security systems. Human hackers had not just broken into Korthak communications. They had been monitoring everything for days. Every order, every report, every private conversation had been recorded and analyzed. But the final blow to Korthak confidence came from an unexpected source. Captain Roy Barnes of the human submarine Nevada transmitted a message that reached every ship in the alien fleet. "This is Captain Barnes to all Korthak vessels. We have a proposal. You have approximately 6 hours to begin withdrawing from our system. If you are still here after that deadline, we will demonstrate why every other alien invasion force has ended up as scrap metal floating in space." Admiral Zextar almost laughed at the audacity. What could they possibly do to threaten us? Their nuclear weapons cannot penetrate our shields. His science officer provided the terrifying answer. "Sir, they are not planning to use nuclear weapons. Long-range sensors detect massive electromagnetic activity across their planet. They appear to be building some kind of planet-wide weapon system using their electrical power grid." Lieutenant Colvin added more disturbing news. "Sir, we are also detecting launch preparations at sites across Earth. They have modified their space program rockets to carry unknown payloads. Engineering estimates suggest they are planning a coordinated multi-vector assault." The final straw came when human children began sending messages to the Korthak fleet. Not threats or demands, but drawings and stories about defeating alien invaders. The images showed humans using creativity and determination to overcome superior technology. The stories all ended the same way, with the aliens running away. Admiral Zextar realized that humanity had already won this conflict, not through superior weapons or technology, but through something far more dangerous. They had refused to be afraid. They had adapted to every challenge. They had turned the invasion into a learning experience, and were now teaching the galaxy's most feared military force that some species could not be conquered. "Prepare for immediate withdrawal," Admiral Zextar ordered. "All ships are to begin hyperspace calculations." "Sir?" Commander Velthos asked in confusion. "We are retreating from a primitive species?" "No," Admiral Zextar replied as he watched Earth continue its peaceful rotation. "We are retreating from something that has defeated every other major military power in galactic history. We are retreating from a species that treats impossible odds as a personal challenge." As the Korthak fleet began its withdrawal, Admiral Zextar transmitted one final update to the Galactic Archive. "Earth remains unconquerable. Humans demonstrate uncontainable hostility toward invaders, impossible adaptability under pressure, and the ability to weaponize concepts that should not be weaponizable. Recommend immediate classification as Galactic Hazard Level, Extreme. Do not engage under any circumstances." The massive alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving Earth's sky clear once again. On the planet's surface, President Lisa Martinez addressed the world with typical human understatement. "Well, that was interesting. Now, where were we before we were so rudely interrupted?" The galaxy had learned once again why no one dared to invade Earth, not because humans were the strongest or most advanced species, but because they were something far more dangerous. A bear species that got stronger every time someone tried to defeat them.